Well, hello, hello, hello. It's Easter Monday. No, it's not. It's Easter Sunday. And I thought I'd do a nice little roundup video on the allotment because it's coming along really well now. It's rained not until about 2 weeks ago. It rained non-stop since last September, which really set me back because normally I'd get all my weeding and digging and bed preparation done during the winter. I didn't get a chance this year because it was just, I would have done more harm than good treading on the beds when they were that waterlogged. We've had a couple of weeks of dry weather now, and actually this last week or so it's been glorious weather. So I'm going to avoid the C word, and I'm not. I'm not going to completely avoid the C word. I'd like to, but I'm talking about coronavirus. I just need to mention, I was listening to the local radio earlier. Now, bearing in mind it's a Sunday morning and it's Easter, so it's a holy day to the Christians. Obviously, they stole Easter from us pagans. It used to be Eastra. There you go. That's how they did it. But there wasn't much on the radio this morning. While I was just getting myself started up, this was about 9 o'clock this morning, just as I was getting myself started up to get working. There wasn't much on the radio, and I ended up listening to the local radio, which has a multi-faith religious programme on a Sunday morning. Now, there was some silly old bint talking away on this phone-in religious show, telling us all she was a Christian. I mean, Christians are about the most bearable of the lot, to be honest. You know, there are much worse out there. But this woman was banging on about how this is God's will. This is God's will. God will determine the outcome, and it's faith in God which will get us through it. That's about all I can say, really. To anybody listening to that kind of nonsense and taking it as gospel, if you excuse the pun. No, it's not God that's going to get us through this. It's a combination of science, common sense and good communities. I'll leave it at that. Let's have a little tour. Let's start down the far end. Down the far end there's where that's my no dig end of the allotment. And it's no dig can be a pain. It has its benefits, I do understand that, and I do apply even to the beds, all of these beds which I have to dig. It's minimal dig. I don't so much turn them over. I just take the weeds out, I break up the big lumps of clay, and actually as time progresses those lumps of clay are getting less and less. I don't deeply dig. I'm a big fan of fungal mycelium. Over the last couple of years I've inoculated this whole site. It's all been inoculated with mycelial fungi, which set up a symbiosis between all your plants. Absolutely brilliant stuff. It really does a good job. Now, if you go around digging it all over and exposing those mycelial threads to the sun once or twice a year, it kills them all off and knocks it back. It doesn't completely destroy them, but they have to re-establish themselves every time you do that. And you're better off just, as far as you can, just letting them get on and do their own thing, because they're a massive, massive benefit to your site. But that far end there, where I grow, they're all perennial. They're all perennial plants. It's fruit trees, fruit bushes, doesn't need any digging whatsoever. So let's have a look what we got. There is my conference pear tree. It's about 2.5 years old. Well, it's about 2.5 years since it's been in the ground. It was probably 2 years old when I bought it. It's been in the ground for another 2.5 years, and it's covered in blossom. Look at it. Plenty of blossom on there. Plenty of pears this year, and it's not even a big tree yet. It's not on a dwarfing rootstock, so it will be a big pear tree. Well, sorry, it's on a slightly dwarfing rootstock. It's not on one of those tiny little, patio plant rootstocks that you get. That should make a tree of maybe 15-20 feet in height. And just over there is its pollination partner. There we are. This is its pollination partner. This is a French pear. It's called either a Comis Doyenne or a Doyenne Comis. I can't remember which. But as you can see, I mean, this one's only been in the ground since last summer, and I probably won't let it produce any fruit. I'm going to leave the blossoms on for now because, as you can see, between the two pear trees, they're two different varieties, but they're both in blossom at the same time, which means they're perfect pollination partners. You don't have to have pollination partners. Most commercially available fruit trees are self-fertile these days. But if you do have a pollination partner of a different variety that blossoms at the same time, you will get a lot more fruit year after year. I'm going to let the bees take advantage of these blossoms and cross-pollinate the two trees. But then once the blossoms die back, I'm going to let the conference produce as many pears as it likes. That's a strong, healthy tree. It's well established, and I'm not going to do it any harm by letting it do that. This one here, however, once the blossoms have finished and it's done its job cross-pollinating the other one, any small fruits that start to appear, I'm going to break them off. I'm just going to let the tree get its roots in, do its growing. I don't want to put too many of its resources into producing fruit until it's a much stronger tree. I think maybe in a more sheltered position you could get away with letting it fruit, but pears don't like exposed sites, and this is a very exposed site. So just for now, just for this year, I'm going to let that tree do its growing and its establishing and its root production rather than fruit production. The fruit is all going to come from that one. Now, where else are we? Oh, the plum tree here. Yeah, this is what plum is this? It's a Victoria. This is a Victoria plum. It's been in the ground now. Look at it, it's doing great. It's been in the ground for 3 years. And I bought it when my old rabbit Buster died. I've still got his wife, actually, his wife Rosie. She's still going strong. She was a lot younger than him. But old Buster, he died a couple of years back, and when he died, I thought, right, I'm not just going to chuck him out for the foxes. I'm not going to put him in the bin. I thought I'm going to bury him on the allotment, and I'll plant a fruit tree on top of him. Now this tree has absolutely shot up. So good old Buster, he continues to do us all a service, even in death. I miss you, Buster. You're a lovely little boy. Right. The raspberries, I was a bit late in cutting back because of the horrible wet winter that we've just had. It was a mild winter, but it was a very wet one. I probably left that a bit late because they were already putting on new growth by the time I cut them back about 2 weeks ago. But to be honest, I don't think it's going to have made much of a difference. I've done the same on previous years, and within a month, I mean, okay, at the moment, if it's, say, this half I'd cut back in the winter, this half I'd left until a couple of weeks ago, you would see a clear difference. But give it a month or so, you wouldn't see any difference between the two anyway. Things just catch up. They seem to do fine. So I'm not particularly concerned about that. I think the raspberries will do all right. Although they are not the greatest raspberries. I think I mentioned in a previous video. They're not the best raspberries. Eating them raw, they're nice. They are nice, but they're, I've eaten much sweeter and much tastier. They make great jam. They make reasonable wine. But I think I might give it a year or two and replace them with something which is a bit more of a modern known variety. I mean, I've got no idea what variety these are. They were shoots that I dug up out of a garden when I worked as a gardener. They could be anything. They're not that great, but they'll do for now. Now, I've been digging over all these beds here. This bed is doing great. Last year this had sweet corn. I did the Three Sisters method, actually. I always do the Three Sisters method because when you've got limited space, it's a very sensible way of growing. This had sweet corn, pumpkins, and climbing beans. There's been a hell of a lot of manure put into this bed. I don't think it needs any more feeding. Last autumn as well, I put a good half a bag of 6X onto this, which sat there all winter. 6X is pelletised chicken manure. I have plenty of fresh chicken manure, obviously, but it only goes so far. The pelletised stuff I threw all over this bed. So this is really well fertilised. And what I'm going to do, I'm due to a lack of resources this year, a lack of materials in the shops, well, a lack of shops to be honest. I'm not going to fertilise that. I'm going to put potatoes in it. My main crops are going to go in there. Now this side of the bed, what did this have? Oh, now this side of the bed had potatoes in it last year, and the year before that it had cabbages. Now it's absolutely rock solid, which is surprising because bearing in mind it had potatoes in it last year. To plant potatoes you need to dig deep trenches, and then to harvest so everything gets really well turned over. And then to harvest your potatoes, again, you're digging it right all up and turning it over. Yeah, over the winter, let me just grab my fork. Again, this has had a ton of 6X put on it. And also a hell of a lot of blood, fish and bone. So it has got nutrients in it. I don't need to add any more. But, look. It is rock solid. Absolutely rock solid. Because there's a lot of clay in it still. It is vastly improved from when I first came. It is doing a lot better than it did, but I'm slightly confused because that's not had potatoes in it. That hasn't been deeply dug. It's just been very well manured and very well fed. This has been well manured, well fed and deeply dug, and yet it's just been sunbaked already, and it's only April. So I'm going to mulch it. As you can see, it's already got overwintered broad beans. These broad beans have been in since last September. The ones at the back where the wind catches them, they've died off. The ones towards the front here, where they're a bit more sheltered, they've actually done all right. And I'm onto a nice early season of broad beans there. The ones that have not made it through the winter at the back, not a problem whatsoever. I've got new broad beans on the go in the greenhouse. Give it a week or two, they'll be ready to plant out. And believe it or not, yeah, they will catch up with what's at the front here. They will. They'll be fine. There won't be any delay on those. Garlic at the front here, they're all doing really nicely. I always get rust on my garlic, as I think everybody does. Rust isn't the end of the world. It doesn't kill the plant. It just means that, let's see if I can find, I've actually cut most of them off. You might be able to see those leaves are all, a lot of those leaves are flat at the end where I've cut the rusted ends off. Let me see if I can find one that I've missed so I can show you. Well, there's one. Show you what rust looks like. Now, this is what rust does. Focus. Focus. There you go. That's what rust does to the leaves. It doesn't actually kill the plant. It doesn't affect the garlic bulbs. What it does is it just makes the leaves less efficient. It makes them less able to photosynthesize. And you end up with garlic bulbs which are perfectly edible, perfectly decent size, just not as huge as they could be. So I do cut off the rusted leaves. It puts on new growth. There's another one that I didn't get, look. Didn't get that one. Have that off. Focus. There you go. Eventually the leaves end up completely looking like that, all yellow and dried out with these orange spots on them. It's like I say, it's not the end of the world, but if you can take the rusted leaves off, it does mean that the plants just grow that bit better. And rather than okay garlic, you get lovely big fat garlic. Something else I overwintered was chicken feed. Chicken fodder was these chard. They've all done great over the winter. I also overwintered some onions here. Now, I think I chose the wrong variety, to be honest. I grew them from seed rather than from sets, and the only point was to get yourself some nice early onions. And you can see across the whole bed there, there's only, I think I counted 12. There's 12 left of the original 25 that I planted out. I think if I'd have gone for something like Stuttgarter or Sturon, they would probably, you know, I might have only lost 4 or 5. As it is, I went for a variety called Exhibition, which is a bit more tender. They make lovely, great big onions, but they're not particularly tough. They don't store very well, and they're not very good at standing up to the winter cold. As you can see, I've got about half of them left. What you got over there, I've not bothered weeding it out because it's red dead nettle. It's not a very invasive weed, and to be honest, at the moment, the bees are loving it. You'll see in a second behind me over there, I'll show you my pollinators bed where I've got lots of wildflowers for the bees and the butterflies. It's still getting there, that bed. It's a bit early in the year for it to be much use to them. So when you get things like red dead nettle coming through, the bees are loving it. I'll just leave it in and let the bees use it and let the bees feed on it until the main bed's ready, and they've got a bit more variety. As it is at the moment, that's pretty much all they've got. I've also overwintered cauliflowers. Don't know how much you can see through the netting. Cauliflower there, cauliflowers there, cauliflowers there. They're doing okay. Again, lost a few, but a few have made it, and it was worth doing, because it means that I mean, they're coming along well actually. I'd say within the next 3 or 4 weeks, I should be getting some nice curds, some nice cheeses as they call them. You know, the big white bit that you eat. Should be getting a few of them coming through, a nice early crop. These are winter cabbages. I can't remember what they're called. But they're a variety of... January King, that's it. These are January King. They're just starting to heart up a bit. They've been sat there again. I sowed them in September. They've been sat there all winter. They're just starting to heart up a bit. And give it a few weeks, I'm going to have cabbages way earlier than I would normally get. So overwintering is worth doing. It's not something I've been doing for years. It's something I sort of started last year. So it's going to be a case of trial and error and seeing which varieties cope best and sticking to them, basically. Right. These beds here, just dug that one over. About to do that one. Plenty of hummus. Hummus? I don't know. One's a Greek paste, the other is rotted organic material. I've not been putting Greek paste on there, put it that way. Pond, and here's the pollinator bed. This is what the bees and the butterflies are going to be relying on in a couple of weeks' time. It's well on its way. Everything's coming through. I'll leave dandelions even. There's dandelions there. They're great for the wildlife. Down here you've got digitalis. Got some daylilies, aquilegia, something or other, daisies, I can't remember. Verbena. Over the back there you've got cornflowers, teasel, pulmonaria, chives. There's all sorts in there. Crocosmia, which hasn't started to come through yet, but that will do. It's really important. You've got to attract the bees and the butterflies to your plot. You get a lot more fruit and veg, and it's just good to feed bees and butterflies. That's my second plum tree. This one is a variety called Opal. Let me just get the right side of the sun. Now, I need to figure out exactly what I'm going to do with this one this year, because this is at a state in its growth which is referred to as a feathered maiden. My other plum tree over the back there, I found very easy to prune and train into the shape I want. As you can see, this one here, the feathered maiden stage, it's got so many branches growing left, right and centre all the way up the trunk, and I'm not 100% sure of the best thing to do with that. Part of me says take off all of these side branches up to the crown where it splays out, and then pick 4 or 5 of the strongest branches and just leave 4 or 5 strong branches growing out from the crown of the trunk there. That's kind of what common sense is telling me to do, but I just need to check up on that. I've never had to deal with a feathered maiden plant before, so it's going to need pruning this year. It's coming along well. It's going to need to start being shaped. I just need to double check exactly how to do that. We've got asparagus coming through. Now, actually, right before we go to the asparagus, this bed here, I covered it all over last autumn with a layer of newspaper and a layer of straw, and as you can see, there's not a single weed in it. Not a single weed coming through. And if you look underneath, That is beautiful. That is lovely, lovely soil down there. In opposition to that one there, which is baked solid. So obviously putting down a mulch like this, even if it's just something as simple as newspaper and straw, keeps the sun off it, keeps the weather off it, allows the insect life underneath to thrive all the more because it's a bit warmer, it's more sheltered, and you end up with in the spring, when you take all this off, you end up with a beautiful ready to go bed. Whereas this one over here, baked solid. So what I'm actually going to do with this one is I'm not going to bother digging it, it's already got things growing in it. It's already full of nutrients. It's just baked solid on the surface. So I'm not going to bother digging it all over. It will just disturb the roots of the plants that are already there. I'm going to mulch it. I'm going to put down a load of compost and a load of hay. Sorry, a load of straw. Same as I did with this one. And once the sun's off it and I've watered it all in, once I've watered all that mulch on, that'll soften up. That'll soften up and it will be as nice as that. Very little effort involved there. That's what I'm going to do later today. I'm going to rifle through my compost heap and see what's usable and what needs turning over and firing up a bit more. Yeah, asparagus coming through. I love asparagus, raw, cooked, whatever. Oh god, yeah. I'm gonna take some today for my dinner. Got one coming through there, nice and strong. A few more there poking through. I love asparagus. Asparagus for tea tonight. What else have I overwintered? Carrots. Now, they're not the biggest carrots. Here's one I just yanked out a few minutes ago. They're not the biggest carrots. They're roughly finger-sized. But they're delicious. And they've taken zero effort. I sowed some seed last autumn, forgot all about them, and now it's spring. I've got small fresh carrots for me and for the rabbit, actually. Oh, I'll tell you what, of all the vegetables you can grow on your allotment compared to ones that you buy in the shops, the flavour that you get in carrots compared to shop bought carrots is just out of this world. Amazing. This bed here is still a bit of a mess, but it's probably the most fertile bed on the allotment because it's right next to the greenhouse, the shed, the chicken coop. You can see a big pile of it there. I tend to just chuck all of my old compost straight onto this bed, so this one is in really good condition. It looks a mess, but actually that's only going to take me, it'll probably take me half an hour to clear that and get it ready for my peas. I always struggle to get enough peas. Things like potatoes, beetroot, carrots, onions, swede. I'm able to grow plenty of them, and I'm able to store them all the way through the winter. So I'm completely self-sufficient in those vegetables. I happen to really love peas, and I can never grow enough. I've always run out, you know, you freeze them, you put them away for later. I've always run out of peas by December. So this year I'm thinking I might dedicate this entire bed to peas, so that I can get enough peas to see me all the way through until this time next year. That'd be nice. Oh, apple trees. That's the Braeburn. Starting to put on a bit of leaf growth and a few blossoms. A little pink blossom there. There we go. That's the Braeburns. Its pollination partner over here. This is the what's this one? Cox's Orange Pippin. Again, it's at the same stage as the Braeburn, just coming into blossom, so they'll be good pollination partners for each other. The other thing that's done well this year, because it's been such a mild winter, is my fig tree. Now, you can see here, these are the new little bud figs that have just started to come on. These are the ones which look like this at this time last year. With figs, they'll sit there all winter. They're a 2-year fruit, so they need to sit there all winter. And then these figs that have been here all winter, they're going to start swelling soon, and I'll be harvesting nice big fat figs to make delicious fig jam. Fig jam is the best jam I've ever had. Usually what happens is we get such a cold nasty winter, these will freeze and drop off. It's not happened this year, So I'm really hoping that this might be the first year I get nice big fat figs. Now, what else we've got? Tomatoes will be going in there. I've not actually sown my tomatoes yet. I'll do that within the next day or two. Get my tomato seeds sown. It's probably warm enough by now. And then when I've had my lunch, what have I got for lunch? That's pork belly. I wasn't sure if that was beef stew or pork belly casserole. That's pork belly casserole. A lot of the stuff in here has come from the plot. The beef didn't, obviously. The kidney beans didn't, and I made the dumplings. But the carrots, the onions, the celery, the broad beans, the potatoes, the swede, there's a good percentage of that came off the plot. I tend to cook these things up as homemade ready meals and just stick them in the freezer until I need them. I'll be firing the Kelly kettle up, sorry not the Kelly kettle, the hobo stove, and having that in a bit. And then when I've had my lunch, I'm going to have a good root through the compost. I'll scrape this dry stuff, the recent stuff off the top, and underneath there should be plenty of usable compost that I can start spreading around the beds, especially that bed with the broad beans in it, which needs a bit of a mulch and a bit of a water just to soften it all up and crack through that baked surface. Right, have we got any raptors? Let's have a look. I'll tell you what, it's not often you can look up here and not see any, but actually, not right now, no. It's Easter Sunday, they're probably all at church, praying for forgiveness so that the virus doesn't kill them. Right, there you go, that's a quick update of the plot. Well, it wasn't that quick actually, it looks like 27 minutes on the screen here. I've probably blathered on for ages. Sorry to bore you. Have a nice weekend. Goodbye.